Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to our second online English activity for tonight. And I'm really happy to be here. As you know, my name is Rafael Tenorio. I'm the coordinator for this language course. And I'd like to say thank you for all the students for Module 2 and 3 that are here to get a little bit more information about some places that English are spoken. Tonight, we're gonna speak a little bit more about New Jersey and New York. Now, I will try to speak just a little bit in Portuguese in order for all the students could understand perfectly what I would like to say. Então, pessoal, boa noite a todos. Muito obrigado pela participação de vocês, né? Vejo algumas pessoas que já se tornaram conhecidas, que eu acompanho às vezes na plataforma do curso, às vezes eu respondo a algumas mensagens. Eu vejo aqui a minha amiga, né, a Lúcia Ferreira, né, que tem trabalhado comigo, né, a Mônica também, que às vezes nós trocamos algumas mensagens, o Kim, né, que às vezes nós conversamos também. So, good evening, everybody. Eu gostaria, né, de saudar também os nossos tutores, né, que aqui estão. Eu já vi o professor Francisco, né, do módulo 3. Também gostaria de agradecer às professoras Andresa e também a professora Gisele, do módulo 2, né, que tem, os três, né, têm exercido um excelente trabalho, né, no nosso curso. Infelizmente, ou felizmente para alguns, por conta da correria, o nosso curso está chegando ao fim, né? Nesta semana nós temos, né, estamos na atividade, né, 16 e está correndo, né, bastante, mas espero que o curso tenha sido proveitoso, né, para todos vocês, né? Agora já conseguimos estabelecer a plataforma, né? As atividades, né, estão acontecendo, né? Já estamos, né, no nosso teste 3, né, encaminhando para o nosso teste final, e aqueles alunos que às vezes perderam alguma atividade ou outra, é uma chance muito boa, né, de vocês retomarem o curso, né, para que vocês obtenham o certificado, tá? Lembrando que vai ter uma lista de presença, tá? Nós iremos disponibilizar essa lista no chat, né, para que vocês possam preenchê-las, e com essa preenchimento, vocês vão receber, né, 5 pontos extras que ajudarão na nota. Eu sei que muitos aqui já têm mais de 60%, mas é uma forma, né, de recompensar, né, por essa noite de vocês estarem aqui, tá? Então, eu peço também que durante a nossa apresentação, vocês façam perguntas, né, aqui no chat, aqui lateral, né, lateralmente, para que o Kevin, né, o nosso convidado de hoje, e também a nossa professora Ana Beatriz, possa ajudar a organizar e a resposta das perguntas de vocês, tá bom? Só para lembrar, né, o Kevin, né, ele é americano, né, mas ele fala, né, português também, ele está aprendendo bastante português, né, e ele vai, né, ter uma comunicação bem pausada para que vocês consigam, né, compreender a mensagem, a questão, né, que ele gostaria de apresentar aqui para vocês. Se tiverem perguntas, as perguntas elas podem ser feitas em inglês, quem sentir à vontade, bem como a pergunta pode ser em português, tá? Que o Kevin ou a Ana Beatriz, a gente vai tentar facilitar essa comunicação para que o Kevin possa responder, tá bom? Então, agradeço mais uma vez e na sequência eu vou convidar a nossa professora, né, do nosso curso, Ana Beatriz. Oi, Ana, boa noite, tudo bem?
Boa noite, Rafa. Boa noite, todo mundo.
Tudo bem? Vamos iniciar mais uma vez a nossa live, agora já chegando à reta final do curso, né? Acho que os alunos do módulo 2 eles vão ter a possibilidade do módulo 3, mas quem está chegando no módulo 3 é hora de dar tchau, né? Infelizmente, está acabando, né? Então, mas eu acredito que essa live de hoje, né, a gente vai conseguir trazer mais conhecimentos acerca dessa riqueza, né, dos países que falam a língua inglesa, né, logicamente que agora a gente trazendo um pouco sobre os Estados Unidos, né, Bia?
Vai ser bem legal. Bem
Isso.
legal.
Bia, então, fique à vontade, tá? Agradeço para você iniciar, para você convidar, né, o Kevin, né, para iniciar. E se você quiser iniciar, fique à vontade, tá bom?
Eu acho que não vou conseguir só participar do chat, que eu não estou conseguindo acesso aqui, Rafa. Eu acho que eu deveria ter me inscrito no StreamYard, mas eu vou acompanhar todo mundo aqui, todas as perguntas, eu vou anotar, para que depois que eu vá, durante a apresentação, eu vá conversando com o Kevin e passando para ele as perguntas que vocês estiverem fazendo, tá bom?
That's okay, no problem.
So good evening. Welcome, everyone. Hello, Francisco, Andressa, Gisele. Thank you for being here. So I'd like to welcome everybody to one more live, our cultural live, and our last one because our course is about to end. So now we have Kevin, and Kevin is going to tell us lots of great things about two incredible places, New York City and New Jersey, where he lives. So I'm going to call now Kevin. Kevin, how are you?
Hi, Hello, Ana Beatriz. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Hi, Ana Beatriz, how are you?
I'm good. And you?
I'm good too, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, Kevin, thank you for being here. And so you can start your presentation because you have lots of things to tell us. And
yes, thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Kevin Yanis. I live here in New Jersey, very close to New York City. I'm very excited to be here. This is my first time doing this kind of presentation, so forgive me. Também eu falo pouquinho de português. Me pode falar em português ou inglês, também em espanhol, italiano. I'll understand. So I'm 27 years old. I was born in New Jersey and have lived here my whole life. I'll talk a little bit more later on, but a very common term for men born in New Jersey is Jersey boy or Jersey girl. I consider myself 100% Jersey boy. A lot of people, they love to talk and to go to New York City. A lot of people around the world, not just Brazil, but Latin America, Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, they want to come to see New York City because it's in so many movies. There's a lot of music videos filmed, a lot of famous people, famous buildings in this area. And yes, New York City has that reputation, but New Jersey is also a very good option close by. So I'm very excited to talk. This is my home, so I hope I do a good job to let you all know what it is like here. Próximo. Obrigado. So location. Obviously, it's in the United States of America. On the map, you'll notice there's a red circle. That is where New York City is, as well as New Jersey. This part of the country is known as the Northeast region, which goes from our capital, Washington, D.C., all the way up to Maine. So a lot of cities in this area, aside from New York, are Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Boston. The New York metropolitan area, which consists of New York City, New Jersey, parts of Long Island, Connecticut, and parts of Pennsylvania, is the biggest metropolitan area of the United States. The population is over 19 million people. So you can imagine how bad the traffic here can be. And on the right, you'll see the Statue of Liberty. It is a very, very popular symbol here for this part of the country, as well as for the United States in general. If you do not know, the Statue of Liberty was a gift from the country of France to the United States. It was a symbol of hope and liberty, given for the 100th anniversary of the founding of the independence of the United States. In 1876, the French sent it over to the United States. They put it on a small island right off the coast of New York City. So it's on the Hudson River, which separates New Jersey and New York. And it became a symbol of hope because a lot of the boats of immigrants from Europe, especially from Italy, and these other European countries like the United Kingdom, France, a lot of these immigrants also from Eastern Europe, they would come on these boats across all the way from the Atlantic Ocean, and the first sign they would see of the United States was the Statue of Liberty with a torch holding up the flames of liberty and the crown. They would be processed at Ellis Island, and then from there they would get off in New York City and either stay in New York to settle there and start their new life, or they would go on to other parts of the country. But it's very close by to here. New York and New Jersey like to fight over who the Statue of Liberty belongs to, and it is a very popular attraction here. It is one of the few UNESCO World Heritage Sites on the East Coast of the United States. And of course, I like to keep one on my desk. Next slide. Obrigado. So the big one, New York City. It's the largest city in the United States. It is, like I said, it is in so many movies, so much pop culture, a lot of history in this place. It was settled by the Native Americans that lived here hundreds of years ago, and then settled by the Dutch, or from the Netherlands. And then it was eventually it was known as New Amsterdam, and then the British took over the area and began calling it New York, because in England there is, I believe, an island or a city called York, so New York, or Nova York, like you say in Portuguese. It has the city district has a population of over 8,200,000 people. It is a big commercial, financial, and cultural center of the United States of America and of the world. You can't go anywhere in the world and find somebody who has not heard of New York City. Some nicknames that people have for the city are the Big Apple. I don't know why it's called the Big Apple. It doesn't look like an apple. But I know in New York State and New Jersey, we grow a lot of fruits and vegetables. So apples are common to find here in our fall season, autunno, which for us is about September, October, and November. And the most popular borough or district of New York City is called Manhattan. That's where you will find all the big attractions like the Empire State Building, Times Square, the World Trade Center. It's what appears in all the movies. But New York City is actually made up of 5 boroughs. So Manhattan is obviously the biggest one and the most popular, but the other ones you may or may not know, like Brooklyn. This is the most visited one after Manhattan. There's a lot of renovation happening because the other districts are not known to be too safe. But this one has been a lot of renovation and security has been put in. There's also Queens, which you may know. That's where Spider-Man is from in the movies. They're famous for the long streets with the train tracks covering them. The Bronx is the other one. This one, it's on the I would say people say it's the more dangerous one, but there are some popular places there, especially the Bronx Zoo, Zoologico, and the Botanical Garden. And the other one that we all forget, it's a district, but it's part of the New York City, is Staten Island. It is an island that's, it's a big island that's between New Jersey and New York as well. The joke is that we don't like to consider Staten Island as part of New York City. I also have a YouTube video that I would like to show, just so that you get an idea what it's like to spend a day in New York City. I don't want to use any clips from movies because I'm sure you have all seen so many movies and music videos and celebrities talking about New York. So I wanted to give you something a little more calm, something just to really enjoy what you would see in New York City if you were to come here one day. If we can please play the video. Obrigado.
Just 1 minute, please, Kevin, because I have some problem with my internet connection and I try to establish it, okay? Just 1 minute, please.
Bom, Kevin, para quem não conseguiu entender tão bem, então eu vou passar algumas coisas que você falou que eu achei bem interessantes. Você está me entendendo? Can you understand me?
Yes.
Sometimes maybe some people here can't understand you very well, so I'll try to help them, okay? They're trying to say some things you told that I found very interesting to tell them. One of the things you told us is that Estátua da Liberdade foi presente da França. Eu não sei se vocês sabiam disso. A Estátua da Liberdade francesa foi presente da França, o Kevin estava falando isso, para os Estados Unidos. Não é isso, Kevin? Entendeu?
Sim. I will try to talk a little slower. I want everyone
to... No, that's fine. Ninguém reclamou. No one complained. I was just, making sure they understand everything. Rafa, deu certo? Yes. Wow, I think everybody wants to go to New York now.
And yes, it's a very, very popular place for international tourism and for even people here in the United States. I know my brother, he went on a road trip from New Jersey all the way to South Dakota, which is about a couple of hours away from Chicago in the middle of the country. And there are many people in that part who have never seen the ocean. They have never gone to the Atlantic or Pacific Ocean. And New York City is like going to another country because of how far it is. Um, but yes, even if you ever have the chance, definitely come to visit. It's a very, very big city, but from what I hear, it is not as big as Sao Paulo. All right, next slide. Okay, so New Jersey is very near and dear to my heart. This is where I was born, and I believe most people you will meet who are from New Jersey will say they will not leave New Jersey. They prefer to stay here. So as you might know, the United States has 50 states plus various territories. In the mainland United States, which is the West Coast from California to New York, New Jersey is the fourth smallest state. You can from the top of the state to the bottom, you can drive in about 3 hours. It's not too big. However, it is the most densely populated. That means it's a state with the most people living per mile. So it's very, very congested, and traffic can be very bad. But we have a population of 9,300,000 people. And what I personally like about New Jersey is that it is a good mix of a lot of things. You have urban and suburban. You will find cities in New Jersey, not as big as New York, but you'll find cities and those kinds of areas, and suburbs, which are like you've seen in many movies, like where everybody has houses and cars. And there's also a good mix of nature as well. In the winter time, you'll find lots of places to go skiing and to go sledding. And in the summer, we have beaches. Something that's very known in this part of the country is the Jersey Shore. So the Jersey Shore, you might have heard from the MTV series with I don't know if you have heard the term Guidos. When I was in high school, it was a very popular show on MTV with the people who would rent houses on the Jersey Shore to go to the beach, to go to the bars and clubbing, and things would get crazy. People would go to jail, but it was entertainment on TV. But the Jersey Shore is a very popular tourist attraction for people who don't want to fly to the Caribbean or to California. If they want to spend a few days or a week at the beach, they'll drive down to the southern part of New Jersey, rent a house or a hotel or a motel, and stay a few days. Obviously, it is not as nice as Rio de Janeiro, but there are some it's very calm here. There's a you may know Boardwalk, like the board game Monopoly. So on the beach, there'll be kind of like a street made of wood where you will find restaurants, stores, carnivals. So you'll spend a few days here, and you'll have lots of good food, have some fun, and just relax for a little bit. A lot of people from the close states like Delaware, Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, and even as far as Canada will come down to the Jersey Shore just to relax at the beach. So our capital, the state capital, is Trenton, which is in the middle of the country, close to the border with Pennsylvania, which is in the state next to us. You may know of it. So Trenton, a lot of people in New Jersey have never actually been there. I have never been to Trenton. most people don't like to go there unless they have to, for whether it's to get like let's say like paperwork, like a birth certificate or a marriage certificate. Most people prefer to just go to New York. So Trenton is not a very popular place, but that is where our governor lives. His name is Phil Murphy. The largest city in New Jersey is Newark. It sounds a lot like New York, but it's I think they chose the name on purpose because to get from Newark to New York, it's about 20 to 30 minutes by train. So Newark is part of the New York metropolitan area as well. Newark is famous because there was a lot of immigration there from from Italians, Puerto Ricans, from Europe in the 1800s and early 1900s. And then, as you might know, with the history of the United States, in the 1960s, there was a lot of migration from people, from African-American people who wanted to get away from the racism that was in the southern part. And a lot of them moved to Newark, which changed the city a lot. I'll discuss it later on in the presentation, but as you might know, in the United States and the rest of the world, there were a lot of protests around social justice, against racism, especially against Black people by police. And this has happened in the United States for many, many years, especially in the 1960s. There was a lot of civil rights movements with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And so one of the things that happened in Newark, there was a big protest with a lot of people, and the government actually sent in military tanks to stop the protests, and a lot of the city was destroyed, and there were some parts that were never repaired. And Newark became very dangerous for a while. In the past 15 years, very similar to Brooklyn, there has been a lot of renovation happening where they want to restore the city, make it a big attraction for banks, for businesses, for entertainment, to have people move there again. So a lot of I know they have built a big concert hall, a big basketball stadium. A lot of renovation has been happening lately that make it an alternative to New York City for businesses. Newark is also popular because there is a big immigrant population there today, but from Latin America. So you will find a lot of people from Mexico, Puerto Rico, Colombia, and Brazil, actually. There's actually a very big Brazilian population in Newark. I know there are flights from Sao Paulo to Newark, and a lot of people in certain districts of Newark will be speaking Portuguese. And there's also a lot of, in the 1960s and 70s, there was a lot of immigration there from Spain and from Portugal. So it's very you will find a lot of Portuguese and Spanish along with English in this part of New Jersey. In New Jersey, you'll find a lot of woods and forests. I'm not sure how you say it in Portuguese, but you can go camping during the summer, and you put up a tent, you stay in the forest, put a little fire, have a barbecue, and just have a good relaxing time in nature. I don't like camping because I don't like bugs, but I love New Jersey because I love to go to the beach. I love the beach. So if you want, on the East Coast, if you come to New York, if you come during summer, go to the Jersey Shore. You'll really enjoy it. And if you're here in winter, you'll get to see New York City covered in snow. And New Jersey, you can go skiing, you can go sledding, ice skating. It's basically any time of the year. New York and New Jersey, it's a good time to come. So this next video, New Jersey, as you can guess, is not a big tourist destination compared to New York, but I tried to find something that would talk about the most popular parts of New Jersey, so you can get an idea of what it is like to live here and to visit. So if we can get the video playing, that way we can show everybody.
To visit in New Jersey. But before we start, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and also like and share this video. Number 1, Liberty State Park. Overlooking the upper New York Bay, Liberty Island, and Ellis Island, home to New York's Statue of Liberty, Liberty State Park encompasses 1,212 waterside acres. In addition to its wonderful views of the aforementioned attractions, the park contains many highlights of its own, including Communipaw Cove, a 36-acre tidal salt marsh that has been designated a nature preserve, and interpretive center is on site. The park is also home to a number of interesting memorials and monuments, including Liberation, dedicated to the Holocaust, and the Sobering Empty Sky, a memorial consisting of two 210-foot-long steel walls with the names of those victims of the tragic events of 9/11 who had ties to New Jersey. The park also has recreational facilities, from picnic areas to fishing, kayaking, and cycling. Number 2, Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area. Covering more than 70,000 acres, the Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area straddles the border between New Jersey and Pennsylvania and includes a spectacular 40-mile protected stretch of the Delaware River. This large recreation area is accessible at numerous points, with the New Jersey section being serviced by 2 visitor centers. Millbrook Village, a recreation of a 19th century community with displays of traditional crafts, and the Kittatinny Point Visitor Center, with numerous exhibits, magnificent views, and an access point for the Appalachian Trail. Other park highlights include the Mini Sink Archaeological Site, where remnants from a 10,000-year-old settlement were found, as well as activities such as canoeing, kayaking, swimming, fishing, and camping. Number 3, Princeton and the Battlefield State Park. The small town of Princeton owes its international reputation to its university and associated research institutes, including the Institute for Advanced Study, where Albert Einstein carried out his final work. Established in 1756, the school's 1,600-acre grounds are wonderful to explore, and one of the best ways to do so is by joining the student-run tour program. Tours last an hour. Another famous historic site is Princeton Battlefield State Park, the 200-acre location of the Battle of Princeton of 1777, which resulted in Washington's victory over the British. In addition to the battlefield itself, other highlights include the Clark House Museum, built in 1772 and used as a hospital by troops from sides of the conflict, the Ionic Colonnade, and a memorial marking the graves of British and American soldiers. Number 4, Wildwood. Wildwood, also located in Cape May County, is primarily a holiday town whose population swells in the summer months, with holidaymakers coming mainly from New York and Philadelphia. From beaches to boardwalks to amusement parks with roller coaster and Ferris wheel rides, Wildwood offers many things to do for visitors of all ages. While these activities cater to younger visitors, the older generation may enjoy reliving the 1950s at the Doo-Wop Preservation League Museum. Number 5, Delaware Water Gap. For a truly outdoors experience away from the hustle and bustle of urban life, head to the Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area. This is a 40-mile stretch of the Delaware River, running through New Jersey and Pennsylvania. This section of the river is a wild and scenic river with a myriad of activities, from hiking the Appalachian Trail and fishing to canoeing, hiking, and horseback riding. So comment below and let us know which is your favorite place.
Nice
All right.
places.
Yes, it's New Jersey. It's a very, very diverse state. There's a lot of history here. It brought up some important parts to know about New Jersey. New York City, even when the United States was a colonial was a colony of England, New York City was a very important post. New Jersey, during the Revolutionary War, when the colonists wanted independence from United Kingdom, a lot of important battles took place in New Jersey. So George Washington, who was our first president, he had a lot of outposts and battles that took place here in New Jersey, and going into Philadelphia. We also have Princeton University, which you might know. It's a very, very difficult school to go into. Albert Einstein, the famous scientist, taught there. He actually lived here in New Jersey. It's a lot of history happened here during the War for Independence in the 1700s. As you might know, this area of the country is one of the older parts. So there's some buildings that are about maybe 250, 300, or even 350 years old. So there is a lot of history on this part of the country, but especially in New York City and New Jersey. Próximos? Okay, so if you want to come to the United States, I'm sure everybody does. The first thing to know, if you are from Brazil, is you will need a visa to come to the US, unfortunately. Hopefully, many of you are able to get a visa in the future to come visit. And if you do fly, it is a long flight. I know I saw a question before, if I've been to Brazil. Yes, I was in Brazil last year. I was in Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo. So I remember flying from Sao Paulo to Newark. It was about 10 hours by plane. It's a very, very long flight, but I was glad to be back home. But be prepared, it is a very long flight. When you fly here to this area, the three biggest airports are John F. Kennedy Airport in Queens. That is the most, I would think it's the biggest airport, and it's the one most of the flights will go into from other countries. LaGuardia Airport is also in Queens. A lot of people do not like going there because traffic is terrible, but it is another option. And New Jersey, we are lucky that we have an international airport, Newark Liberty Airport. So I prefer to fly there because to drive to Newark Airport from me is about 25 minutes. If I want to go to John F. Kennedy Airport or LaGuardia, it will take about an hour and about 90 minutes to 2 hours because of traffic. So like I've said many times, traffic is very, very bad in New York City and the parts of New Jersey closer to the city. Even though it's only about 5 or 10 miles to drive from here to New York, it should normally take about 20 minutes. Because of traffic, and especially in the rush hour, it will take about 2 hours to get to New York City and to drive out. That is why a lot of people who work in New York, if they don't live in New York City, they live in New Jersey or Connecticut, so they'll drive straight there, and it's very difficult. But a lot of people will take public transportation. So the good thing about living in New Jersey and New York is, such as Long Island, you can find trains, buses, subways, taxis, Ubers, boats, bicycling, or you can even walk across the bridge to get to New York. Every town in New Jersey will have at least one bus to be able to get to New York, or you can find a train station that will take you. Many of them directly here. So it is it's very easy to get to New York City. And one thing that every New Yorker or a person from New Jersey will have if they go to New York City a lot is our Metro card. So this is a card that when you buy it, you put money in, and you can use this to go onto the buses or the subways and to be able to go in the city. The joke or the funny thing here is a lot of times when you scan it to go onto the train, it won't work. It won't read it. So you have to find a way to buy a new ticket or find an employee to get it to work, because otherwise you're going to miss your subway. And it's a very very small.
It's like Brazil, so sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah,
it's like Brazil. Kevin, there is a person here, Eliana. She is asking you, how is the evolution of pandemic in those cities, New York and New Jersey?
Okay, pandemic. Okay. So when the pandemic started in March of 2020 last year, as you might have seen in the news, New York was one of the places hit very hard at the beginning, as well as in California. New York shut down for a while. Many shops, restaurants, businesses all closed down. A lot of people stopped going to New York for work and for tourism. A lot of places went out of business, but some places managed to survive. We had a lot of case numbers here because by the time it was declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization, no people hadn't been wearing masks and by that point, a lot of people were already infected and sick. In New Jersey, because we're so close to New York and so many people go there every day for work or for pleasure, a lot of people in New Jersey got sick as well. So New York and New Jersey were both two states that were very, very hit hard. A lot of people in the hospitals are testing positive, and as well as the retirement homes, people were dying. I actually had COVID back at the beginning of the pandemic in March 2020. I remember seeing it on the news. A lot of places were beginning to close down. A lot of people, even where I work, decided to start working from home. And then I remember maybe my parents, I was thinking my head is starting to hurt, but then my headache turned into coughing and a fever, and then you can imagine. So then everybody in my house got sick. In those days, they would not be because it was unexpected. A lot of people would not basically, you could not get tested unless you had been to Europe or China, or if you were in contact with somebody who was positive. So it was very difficult to get tested. And when the New Jersey government and New York State began to offer drive-through testing, they had the Army come in to coordinate it, and we waited 3 hours to get tested in our cars, and 3 days later, they gave us our test results. And unfortunately, I was sick and my family too, but we're all okay. We managed to survive, but hopefully, things will get better soon with the vaccines. I know Brazil has been hit very hard, but hopefully, vaccines will fix things and we can open back up. But to answer your question, yes, New York City and New Jersey as a state were hit very hard by the COVID-19.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're alive.
I'm glad too.
So it's a tragedy, but sometimes we have to laugh.
Next slide. Okay, culture. So people from New York are called New Yorkers. People from New Jersey, it's debated. We can call them New Jerseyans or New Jerseyites. We are known across the country as being very direct and very impatient, especially when we're driving. You'll probably see in the movies, you'll see people honking their horns in the cars and people yelling at each other, getting into fights. But a lot of times, as you can imagine, with so much traffic and the stress of working in the city and big companies, it can get very stressful. But at the end of the day, it's just something, a heat of the moment. It's not like we're like that permanently. It's not our soul. It's just the way of the city. And we do know how to have fun. So we're all not just angry and not talking to people because we like to. We want to focus on work, and then once we're out of work, then we get to have fun. So our food, the food scene in New Jersey and New York is very influenced by the immigrant communities that have been here for many, many years, and the ones that are here now. As you might know, New York style pizza is very popular. New Jersey has the same kind. This is because we had a lot of immigrants from Italy, especially. So Italian food is very popular here, but the New York style pizza is you'll find pizzerias everywhere in New Jersey and New York. So if you're ever in New York or New Jersey, definitely get the pizza. Honestly, like it's considered it's part of our diet to have pizza, here. And next to the picture of the pizza, you'll see bagels. These, I believe, are from Poland in Europe. So these are, it's like a very thick round piece of bread with a hole in the middle. You cut it and then you put cream cheese in it, and you can put other things too, like onions or cucumbers or salmon or eggs, even like eggs, bacon, and you eat it like a sandwich. It's very common to have that in the morning for breakfast. So a lot of people, when they are taking the train or the bus to the city, or they're driving, they'll eat in the cars. They'll have a bagel and they'll have a coffee with them. So Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts are very popular places to get quick food to go, especially if you're going to the city. You'll find these places everywhere, like in New York. And also in New York City, there's a lot of restaurants, so you'll find food from everywhere, from Mexico, Peru, Brazil, Italy, Russia, Argentina, Japan, Spain. You'll find a big food scene. So if you want to get food from everywhere in the world, you'll find a restaurant for it in New York. And also very popular are the food trucks. So this is where you'll find a lot of the pretzels, bagels, and gyros. Very like Greek food, Middle East, Arab. It's very common to see them on every block in the city. So as a tourist, you probably will get it, but you should be careful because a lot of times it's not very clean. You might get sick, but you know, it's part of the New York culture. Also, as you might know, New York and New Jersey have their own accents. So my English is going to be different from somebody from California or from Boston or from Chicago. We have a way of pronouncing certain words. So my accent is not very strong, but somebody let's say, who's lived in New York City their entire life, New York, they'll say New York. Or somebody from New Jersey like me, sometimes I'll say New Jersey or Jersey. It's certain words are pronounced very with a different accent. Like, I know when I say, "Can I get a glass of water?" That's me trying to speak normal English. Naturally, I say, "Can I get a glass of water?" So it's a noticeable accent that you'll see in New Jersey and New York City. And as far as the culture scene, we have sports teams in New York and New Jersey, like the Yankees, the famous baseball team, the New York Knicks, who are famous for basketball, the Harlem Globetrotters, and in the United States, that you can guess, soccer is not very popular compared to the rest of the world, but American football is. It can be dangerous because you can get a concussion, but it's very, very popular here. Everybody will watch the Super Bowl every February. It's the end of the football season, so the two biggest teams will play the Super Bowl, and everybody, even if you're not from the cities that the teams are from, you will pick a side and you will watch the game, even if it's just for the commercials and for the halftime show. So you'll find a lot of sports teams to watch here. There's also a lot of museums, art installations in the streets. Street performers and concerts will always go to New York City. So you'll find a good concert to go to, a museum, or something fun to do. And as far as having fun, we have a lot of parks, as you know, Central Park. There's a lot of bars, nightclubs, restaurants, shops, malls. You can do all your shopping here in New York, but it is a little expensive. So pick wisely where you choose to shop. And as far as like I mentioned earlier, there is a lot of racial and social conflict that can happen in New York. We did have a lot of protests last year and the past couple of years, but aside from that, New York is generally very safe. You can walk around with your phone out, but you know, just like in a lot of places in the world, you have to keep an eye out, make sure you're in a good area. Manhattan is generally very safe. Like I can walk with my phone outside, but you know, if you walk down certain streets, you just need to be careful and keep an eye on your surroundings. Next slide. Thank you. So as far as the climate, as you can already guess, we have the best of both worlds in New York and New Jersey. In the winter, which I would say is from December to early March, we can get snow. It can be usually about 20 degrees, which is about 0 degrees Celsius, but it's cold enough to snow. So like you'll see like a lot of people wearing coats, scarves, face masks now. And it's very pretty here. Like if you're lucky to be here in winter, you'll love the snow. It's a very beautiful, like in the movies. But you know, everybody loves to laugh at winter because the snow is pretty, but you have to clean it up to get your car out of the driveway to drive everywhere. It's you know, you have to make sure you have to be able to drive, or else, you know, also you have to be careful you don't get sick. And also in the summer, New York City can get hot, but definitely not as hot as Brazil. So we have a lot of we have the beaches on the Jersey Shore where it's many miles of beaches, so you can go to relax there, or even in the city you can go running in the park. You can, and a lot of people will have pools. There are public pools, but basically all year round you're going to have a very good climate. So what I like about living here is that I will not be bored with the temperature. I have clothes for every season, so I have a lot more clothes in my closet than most people because I need clothes for winter and for summer. And in Brazil, I know the climate is a bit different in the seasons, but for our summer is from June, July, August. Our fall, or outono, is September, October, November. Winter is December, January, February, and then spring, I would say, is about March, April, and May. So if you want to see snow, December, January, and February are the best times. But if you want to enjoy the summer and we'll go down to the beach, June, July, and August are the best times. Próximo. Okay, so to finish up, if you do ever have a chance to come to this area of the world, these are my top 5 places you have to see in New York City and New Jersey. New York City, Times Square. You're going to see it in every movie, like in so many things. Definitely go. There's so many billboards and lights. It's like something that many people dream of seeing, and being there in person is a whole experience. Just be careful with the people in costumes. Like you'll see like Elmo and Batman and Captain America, the naked cowboy, because if you take a photo with them, they're going to want you to pay them. So just, you know, take your own photos if you want to save money. Central Park, it's been in a lot of movies too. It's a big park in the middle of New York City. I haven't even seen all of Central Park because of how big it is. But if you want to enjoy some time in a little bit of nature in the city, go there. The Statue of Liberty, you can take a boat there from New Jersey or from New York City. If you buy tickets ahead of time, you can go all the way up to the crown of Statue of Liberty, which is somewhere around here. Unfortunately, you cannot go up to here because of safety reasons. Most times the tickets will take you up to the pedestal, which is about the feet. You get really good views in New Jersey and New York City. And it's a very famous representation of the United States. So definitely get a chance to go there. There's also a museum on another island there called Ellis Island, which is where the immigrants would be processed through. They would stay there while they're examined by doctors and have their passports checked and be approved to be entered the United States or left to go back to their countries. The processing of immigration stopped in about 100 years ago, so it's a museum now, so you can check that out too. The Freedom Tower is another place to check out. This is what replaced the World Trade Center after the terrorist attacks of 9/11. The Freedom Tower is a big, at the top there's an observation deck where you can get really good views of the whole city, but there's also a lot of businesses in there. If you go during sunset, it's more money, but it's definitely worth it. In that area of town, you'll also find the 9/11 Memorial in the museum. So you'll see they put these big, deep fountains where the two twin towers used to be, with a memorial for the names of all the people that died that day. But the downtown is a nice area of New York City, so you can definitely check that out. And the last one is not so known, but it's called Hudson Yards. This is an area of New York City in the district called Chelsea. It's close to Times Square, but it's the part of the city that has been undergoing a lot of renovations too. There's a big high-end mall with a lot of shopping. There's this thing called the Vessel, which is it's a new tourist attraction that looks like a beehive. You might have seen it in my earlier photo. It was supposed to be a temporary art exhibit. It's a bunch of stairs that look like a beehive or a kebab, but it's the official name is called the Vessel. So you can walk up all these stairs, go to the top, and get really good photos. There's also an observation deck called the Edge. The Weeknd, the famous singer from Canada, performed there last year. It's a deck that overlooks the city, and you walk on glass. So there's nothing between you and the glass and the rest of the just air. So it's a very new part of the city, so I would recommend. As far as New Jersey, definitely go to the Jersey Shore, enjoy the beaches there. There's a couple of different places like Seaside Heights, Asbury Park, Point Pleasant, and Wildwood, like you might have seen in the video. It's a very relaxing part of the state, so definitely check it out. Liberty State Park is on the opposite side of the Hudson River, so you have really good views of New York City from there. The Delaware Water Gap is where where the Delaware River is, that separates New Jersey and Pennsylvania. So there's a lot of woods and forests there, so you can go kayaking in the boats there. Princeton Battlefield State Park. This is a good place if you want to see Princeton, where the university is, where the battle was fought against the British in the Revolutionary War. And Newark. Newark, I know a lot of people don't recommend going here, but I would say to check it out because it is the biggest city in New Jersey. There is some recent history there. And also because you might feel at home because of the Brazilian district. I know sometimes I like to go there to try the authentic Brazilian food from the Brazilian immigrants there. And you'll find a lot of Portuguese speakers in that part, as well as Spanish speakers. So it's a nice area if you want to feel at home while you're in the United States. And I know another thing that I wanted to talk a little bit more about is just some local slang and vocabulary here in the States. Like I know a lot of you know how to, hello or goodbye. In New Jersey and New York, and some parts of the United States as well, if you want to say hi or hello, we'll just say hey, or what's up, or how you doing, or like how are you doing, or if you're really from New York, you say how you doing, with a very fast and thick accent. And if you want to say goodbye, you could say goodbye, but it's very common to say see ya, like see you later, or bye, or later. And as far as the language, it's very, very, very rare to find Portuguese speakers. If you're far from the cities. If you're in New York City, you might find some luck, but it's very common to see Spanish here. So I know Portuguese and Spanish are very similar, but they have a lot of differences. But if you find somebody who speaks Spanish, you can speak Portuñol. You'll understand. And English, of course, is the dominant language here. Unfortunately, not many Americans will know another language other than English. But eventually, every once in a while, if you'd find someone who can speak something other than English, most of the time it will be Spanish. So that's it's an important thing to know as well. You'll see a lot of, especially in New York City, you'll see a lot of signs in English and Spanish. But Portuguese, you'll find, maybe if you're lucky, you can find it in New York, but definitely in Newark. And I think that's all I have time for today. I think I covered a lot of different things. I hope you guys got a lot of good information about New York City and New Jersey. So I'll let Ana Beatriz take it from here.
Hi, Kevin. It was really nice. People here are laughing because they are talking about Joey from
Yes.
Friends. How you doing?
Yep. Yeah, it's Friends is it took place here in the city, and they actually have a I think a building. I'm not sure if they filmed it there, but they do have a Friends exhibit, so you can go and take photos in the cafe, maybe the apartment, but definitely the cafe. But Joey has a very typical New York accent, so that's exactly who I was quoting when I was saying that.
That's funny. And speaking about languages, you were talking about different languages here that you can find there. And I know you speak Portuguese, and you were trying to learn more and more. So I'd like to know why you decided to speak Portuguese. Is it part of your Paulo is also asking the same question. Kevin, why did you want to learn Portuguese? So please, Kevin, explain us why Portuguese.
So growing up, I spoke English and Spanish. My parents are from a country called El Salvador in Central America. So my parents only spoke Spanish at home because they immigrated here. They didn't know English, so I grew up speaking both languages. When I was in high school, I took Italian for a few years because I wanted to really expand my knowledge and learn another language. And what helped was that Italian was very similar to Spanish. Portuguese, I had heard of it. I didn't really have too much experience with it, but I would say about maybe 3 years ago, I started, for some reason, I really started getting interested in going to Brazil because after the Olympics, it became very, a lot of people in the US started talking about Brazil. And, you know, Brazil has a reputation in the United States where a lot of people want to come visit especially because of Rio. And yes, I know Brazil has a reputation for, you know, it might be kind of dangerous in some parts, but a lot of people definitely want to visit. I know after the Olympics, I started thinking more about it. And then for some reason, like the culture really fascinated me. It was very similar to my culture in El Salvador and the rest of the Spanish-speaking countries in South America. And because the language is so similar, I really like the culture. I really wanted to be able to be involved and really be able to talk with the locals. And, you know, and maybe one day if I go to Brazil, I want to be able to, you know, at least communicate with people and listen to the music, maybe watch a movie. So learning the Portuguese definitely helped when I went to Brazil last year. In Rio and Sao Paulo, I actually managed to communicate with a lot of people because I was speaking Portuguese, or at least trying to. But it is definitely a helpful thing to know more than one language because it can open a lot of doors for you, a lot of opportunities, whether it's for jobs or even just to make friends and learn a new culture. It's really important, and you get to really experience a world you really would not have known or been involved with.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And since you like beaches a lot, you'll find wonderful beaches here.
I definitely
one more reason to know Portuguese.
Exactly. I want to be able to
you can come here a lot to take some some beach experience here in Brazil.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Mm-hmm. Kim is thanking you for your for all the information about the tourist places, the tourism that she could go in New Jersey and New York City, and okay, she's talking about a video that we can find about the places. Okay, Kim, thank you. I'll watch it. And what else do you have another question? Does anyone have another question for him?
Oh, I see one here about the history of the Freedom Tower.
I've missed that.
Yeah, so the Freedom Tower, after the terrorist attacks, obviously there was a lot of cleanup involved, and because of the significance of what had happened, they wanted to make a memorial in that area. They didn't know if to really rebuild another skyscraper there because, you know, what if another plane comes? But they wanted to find a way to honor what used to be there and the people that passed away that day. So they began. The decision was made. They would make a memorial and a museum to remember 9/11, but they also wanted to, you know, put a building back there because in the past, you might see here in the back, it was very iconic to see like when you think of New York, you would see the Twin Towers and the bridges and Empire State, and the skyline changed forever that day, and they wanted to put something there to make it feel right. So they decided to build another skyscraper. It was delayed because it was supposed to open in 2011 because of the 10th anniversary of the attacks. It, I think, opened in about 2015 or 2016. So about like the 15 years later. So they managed to build it up, and it's the tallest building in New York City. There was a lot of I remember growing up. I remember when the Twin Towers fell. I was about 7 years old, and I lived closer to the Hudson River. So I remember there was a lot of smoke in the air that day. And I was thinking, like, what's going on? And I remember our teachers told us, you know, when you get home today, just tell your parents that you love them very much. And I just thought it was kind of weird. I didn't know. And then a few days later, and you know, we all saw the news. Oh, this is what happened. So everybody in this area of the country, especially, grew up with being able to see New York City from a distance. Like even where I live right now, I can still see New York City from my work. I can still see the city from the background. So they wanted to really have something in that where the
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Sorry, that was my watch. There was people wanted to have something there to remember the Twin Towers that used to be there and to honor the people that died that day. So there's a memorial usually every year on the anniversary. But it was a lot of people were happy to see the Freedom Tower put in, and the name was appropriate, Freedom, because of, you know, what this city signifies for a lot of people in New York, New Jersey, the United States, and for the world, because it was really something that affected like the entire world.
By the way, you were very young at that time, weren't
Mm-hmm.
you? Because
Yeah,
now you're 27, so.
Mm-hmm. It was I was 7 years old, and the 20-year anniversary is coming up.
Yeah.
Oh, and somebody pointed out New York has Broadway and the musicals. Yes, that's I can't believe I forgot that. Here, if you'll be able to find a lot of Broadway shows, musicals, and plays. So yeah, it's kind of like Sao Paulo too. I know there's a lot of Sao Paulo is very similar to New York. So if you're familiar with the Sao Paulo area, you'll feel right at home in New York.
So less safe, less safe than in New York, but not very safe as you feel in New York, because despite of being a crazy city, New York, very, it's still much safer than in São Paulo.
Mm-hmm.
At least I felt much safer than in São Paulo than when I am in São Paulo.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, in New York City, we especially after I would say up until the 1980s and 90s, it was dangerous to go there. I remember my mother, she went to New York in the late 1980s, and it was starting to get better. But she even today, she's like, "Be careful when you go there; it's dangerous." But in the 1990s, things really started to change because a lot more police presence, and especially after 9/11, security is very, very big here. So we're not used to like these mass shootings like you might see on the news, because that happens in other parts of the country where there's less laws. But in New York City, New Jersey, there is definitely a bit more control. So here, like there's a lot of you'll see police cars, you'll hear them all the time. So if you're walking down the city, you can feel safe for the most part. I know in Sao Paulo, I was a little bit nervous, but overall, I tried to not let it, get to me, because Sao Paulo has a lot of cool places and sites to see too. So I'm hoping I'm able to go back to Brazil next year, if as long as COVID gets better and the borders don't close.
Please come. And they are asking you, what time is it now in New Jersey?
Oh, so in New Jersey right now, it's 7:14 p.m. So it's about I think is it like 9:14 over there at night?
2014.
2014. I think it's 8:14.
2014. Olha a teacher falando errado, hein? Eu falei em português. 8:14.
Okay.
15 past 8.
Okay, so it's about we're 1 hour behind here in New York, New Jersey. In another thing you might not know about the United States, or at least this part of the country on the East Coast, is we have daylight savings time. So in November, our time changes. So in November, we lose an hour of sleep, because when it becomes, I think, like 2 a.m., the clock goes back 1 hour, so we get an extra hour of sleep. That's why in the winter here, the days are shorter, because the sun will set earlier. And then in March for spring, the clocks will give us back an hour, so we lose an hour of sleep. So from spring and summer, we get more sunlight because we have an extra hour of sunlight. So it's very strange. I know a lot of in the government, they want to change it because everybody's like, just stick with one time. We don't want to have to change our clocks every few months. So yeah,
It happened
right now,
here in Brazil for a while. Now we don't have it anymore.
Any other questions?
A question here from Larissa. She's asking you, what do you think is the major difference between Portuguese and English learning school system?
Let's see. I would say here, a lot of children go to daycare until they're about 4 years old. Then they start their official schooling in kindergarten, we call it, when they're 5 years old. Then they start official school, first grade, until maybe about fifth or sixth grade. When they're 10 or 11 years old, they'll go to middle school, which is, you're just becoming a teenager, you're still young, for about 2 or 3 years. And then when you're about 14 or 15, you go to high school, like you might have seen in TV shows and movies. We go to high school for 4 years, and then we graduate when we're 18, so we just become legally adults. From there, it's up to everybody to decide what they want to do. If they want to go to college, if they want to go to trade school, like to, let's say, learn to become a plumber, electrician, repairman, or if they just want to start working. I would say a big thing here in the United States is many people want to go to college, because it gives a lot of opportunities to become, well educated, get a master's degree, a PhD. But as you might know from the news, student loans debt is very big here in the United States. It can cost about, I would say, about anywhere between $15,000 to $40,000 US dollars per year for school when you go to university. And you have to go to school for 4 years usually to get your bachelor's degree, which is the common one. And then you have to, if you want to get your master's, it's an extra 2 years, and it's more expensive per year. And then PhD, even more money. So a lot of people in the United States, especially the younger generations, it's very expensive to go to college, to university. In the past, it was back, let's say, people who were my parents' age, my grandparents' age, it was much cheaper to go to school. You could work at a restaurant and be able to pay for your tuition for your education with just that job. Now, it can take maybe 5, 10, 20 years to pay off your student loan debts. So that's a big thing that's here in the U.S. We a lot of the expectations are for us to go to college, but it can be very expensive. So it's a lot of we have a lot of big famous universities like Princeton, Yale, Harvard, and some other universities like where I went to Rutgers University here in New Jersey. I know some international students go there, but it can be very expensive here. And it also varies by state. As far as when you're a child, some states will have a better education system. They'll give them supplies. The materials they teach are better controlled. In other states, they don't really care. So the education rate is a lot lower. But as far as I know, New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts are some of the states with some very good education systems.
Great. Kevin, many people here thanking you for the great presentation you gave us. Many people here saying thanks, that was wonderful, that was great. Thank you for sharing this. So, well, I'd like to reinforce that. So thank you so much, Kevin.
You're welcome, everybody. Muito obrigado, Ana Beatriz, por falar comigo, per ter a mim hoje como apresentador. Desculpe o meu português, mas eu vou tentar praticar pouquinho mais para quando vou ao Brasil o próximo ano, posso falar muito melhor.
Seu português está ótimo.
Obrigado.
E já tem pessoas aqui there. I saw some messages here inviting you to have some coffee when you come to Brazil.
I love to. Hopefully em 2022 posso ir ao Brasil.
And you're going to do very well, a good job here with your Portuguese, because I think your Portuguese is already very good. Fantastic.
Muito obrigado.
It's very good. So, Rafa, where are you?
Hey, I'm here. Just listen to you guys. Kevin, once again, thank you for your brilliant presentation, that you could bring us a lot of information from a new culture, new perspectives, or some different things that we usually hear from USA, as you know. And as Beatriz told us, a lot of students invited you to have some coffee with them. And next time you come to Brazil, please don't forget to visit Minas Gerais state as well, because it's a really good place to visit, and we have delicious food such as pão de queijo. I don't know if you already heard about this delicious dish that we have here, and our coffee that is not like Starbucks. It's a real coffee, believe me. So,
O café
the name
verdadeiro.
sorry?
O café verdadeiro.
Yes, o café verdadeiro que você encontra.
When it's special, is good. When it's special, not from the supermarket half.
Yes, some select
Yeah,
coffees. Yes.
yeah, select ones. Yeah.
Eu amo o pão de queijo, é muito bom. Os brigadeiros, as coxinhas.
Brigadeiro, coxinha, maravilhoso,
Coxinhas,
né?
yeah.
Muito bom.
Especialmente as caipirinhas.
That's the best one.
That is why we are talking about. Yes.
My preferred one, yes. My
Então,
favorite.
Kevin, muito obrigado. I will try to speak in Portuguese just to practice your Portuguese, by the way. Então, muito obrigado em nome do Instituto Federal do Sul de Minas pela sua brilhante apresentação, pelo seu tempo, né, que você esteve aqui conosco, né? Até você comentou mais cedo que você deixou o seu serviço um pouco mais cedo para que você pudesse participar da nossa live, né, de hoje à noite. Então, eu acredito, né, que representando os nossos estudantes, eu e a Ana Beatriz, nós agradecemos muito a sua participação, tá? E se você quiser, né, if you want to say some few words before we end this presentation, go ahead.
Muito obrigado a você, Rafael, e a você, Ana Beatriz, e a todos vocês por ouvir o que eu queria dizer hoje. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really happy to share what life is like here in New Jersey and New York City. I know that things can get rough out in the world, but it's good to know that we're all in this together, and that hopefully we all get to learn a little bit about each other's cultures, so that way we can all get along. And hopefully this pandemic will end soon. Please get vaccinated when you get the chance, and hopefully we can all start traveling again.
Uhum. E só para completar, né, para os nossos estudantes, às vezes eles perguntam, né? Mas eu gostaria de falar o inglês tão bem, né, quanto ao Kevin, né? E aí, né, quando você fala em português, né, é interessante os nossos estudantes perceberem como que o timing, né, a maneira como você fala português é mais, né, slowly, né, mais devagar, e o inglês é mais fluente, por conta deste processo de aprendizado, né? Então, nós falamos para os nossos estudantes, esse processo é construído step by step, né? Um passo a passo, né? Então, é muito importante você insistir nesse aprendizado, buscar, né, outras fontes, né? Alguns alunos comentaram sobre um TV program que eles estão procurando, outros têm alguns documentários em inglês, algumas músicas, e também, né, essa oportunidade de conhecer outras pessoas, né, se conectar e praticar, né, a sua língua alvo, né, aquela que você tem interesse, né, seja o português, seja o inglês, o espanhol, o italiano, e saber que esse processo não é, né, né, do nada, né, no inglês a gente fala, né, out of the blue, né, do que aparece assim do nada, né, e é algo construído, né, então é interessante, né, trazer isso para os nossos estudantes, a insistência e a persistência em aprender um novo idioma. Então, né, eu agradeço, Ana Beatriz, mais uma vez, né, pela essa noite muito boa,
Eu
né,
que
que a gente
agradeço, Rafa.
compartilhe, e amanhã você que vai ser a apresentadora, né, do módulo 1, né, que você vai falar um pouco sobre a sua experiência, né, na Inglaterra, né, então, como intercambista, falar sobre algumas diferenças de cultura, né, sobre algumas impressões que você teve, né, se realmente o chá é às 5 horas da tarde, né, por que a gente fala, né, que é o horário britânico, né, às vezes é algumas curiosidades que é legal a gente comentar. Então, pessoal, muito obrigado, né, aos estudantes que participaram, e Kevin, né, quando vier ao Brasil, né, nos avise, a minha, a Ana Beatriz, alguns estudantes, porque um pouco diferente que você falou, né, que em New Jersey, New York, as pessoas são um pouco irritadas, né, por conta de muitos outros aspectos. Aqui no Brasil, nós somos mais, né, receptivos também, né, então fique à vontade para nos visitar.
Obrigada, Kevin. Aliás, tem uma fila de gente querendo falar com você aqui no Brasil. A huge line of people. There's a lot of people here, a huge line of people that want to talk to you when you come to Brazil. So
Isso.
not just me and Rafa. You've got a lot of fans here. They love you here.
You have already conquered a lot of fans here, yes.
Yes, you've got a lot of fans. They want to have a coffee with you. They want to talk to you. They want to teach you Portuguese. So I think
it's a good way because you don't need to pay for anything when you come to Brazil, right?
I know, he doesn't need.
Ok,
então, you're at home here.
Muito obrigado, né, Ana
Obrigada.
Beatriz, Kevin, os estudantes também, alguns estudantes falando, eu gostaria de visitar a Minas Gerais, eu gostaria de visitar o IF Sul de Minas, né? Então, venham também nos visitar, né? E aí a gente segue em contato. Então, pessoal, muito obrigado, né? Good night, boa noite, buenas noches, né, Kevin, em espanhol, para saudar os seus pais.
Buenas noches.
Seguimos em contato. Tchau, tchau, gente.
Obrigada,
Tchau,
gente. Tchau. Obrigada, Kevin. Tchau.
Boa noite. Tchau.